My wife died before I ever told her I loved her, and I didn't learn how much she loved me until after her funeral. Mr. Anderson. I looked up. Khloe's attorney, Daniel Davis, placed a thick folder on the coffee table. Khloe left you everything. Her shares in Monroe Media, the house, her investments, all of it. I didn't touch the folder. A week ago, Khloe Monroe had been alive. Now I owned everything she had ever built. Except her. I don't want it. Davis hesitated, then reached into his briefcase. There's one more thing. He placed an old digital voice recorder beside the folder. Khloe asked me to have this repaired if anything ever happened to her. After he left, I stared at it for nearly an hour. Then I pressed play. Static crackled, and Khloe's voice filled the room. Ethan. My hand froze. She sounded alive. If you're listening to this, I probably didn't get the chance to tell you properly. I swallowed. Then came the words that shattered everything I believed. I didn't marry you to get revenge on Caleb. Everyone thought she had. Khloe Monroe had once been linked to my younger brother, Caleb Anderson, movie star, golden boy, the Anderson family's biological son. When she suddenly married me instead, Los Angeles society treated it like a scandal. Even I assumed I was just her revenge. Then Khloe said, I married you because I loved you. I stopped breathing. You probably don't remember me from college. You were student council president. Everyone knew you. She laughed softly. I hated you at first. Despite myself, I almost smiled. I was jealous. Then somehow, I couldn't stop watching you. Her tone changed. When I heard you had been arrested, I knew something was wrong. My fingers tightened around the recorder. 5 years in prison. 5 years I had given away for Caleb. It started when he fought another actor, Leo Vance, backstage on a film set. The argument turned physical. Leo fell down a flight of stairs and slipped into a coma. There was no clear security footage. Only Caleb and I had been nearby. I still remembered my adoptive mother clutching my hand. Ethan, please, Caleb's career is just beginning. Caleb dropped to his knees. I didn't mean to do it. If I get charged, my life is over. My father barely spoke. He didn't have to. They wanted me to take the blame. Me. The child they had accidentally raised. To protect the son who shared their blood. You're his brother. My mother cried. And I said yes. I told the police I had pushed Leo. I went to prison. First, my parents visited constantly. They promised lawyers, protection, a future. Then the visits became less frequent. Eventually, they stopped. When I was released 5 years later, nobody came, just the family assistant, and a bag full of cash. I left the money behind. I thought that made us even, but every time I found work, someone made a call. Every door closed. Eventually, I left Los Angeles and started waiting tables at a small diner. That was where Khloe found me. A drunk customer had just knocked me to the floor when expensive heels stopped beside my hand. I looked up. Khloe Monroe stared down at me. Beautiful, cold, completely out of place. Wow, Ethan. I wiped blood from my lip. What? You really have fallen far. I laughed bitterly and tried to walk away. Then she asked, will you marry me? I thought she was insane, but I had nothing left. So I said yes. Now, 5 years later, I finally understood why. Khloe's voice continued. I got close to Caleb because I wanted to know what really happened to you. My eyes widened. I never believed you hurt Leo. The room went silent except for her voice. I investigated the Anderson family for years. Caleb covered his tracks well. But eventually I found enough to understand what they did. She had known. All those years. She had been searching for the truth. I asked you once if you wanted revenge. She said. I remembered. Less than a year after our wedding. She had asked, if you could destroy the Andersons, would you? I had said no. Our debt is paid. At the time, I never understood why she looked disappointed. Now I did. You said revenge wouldn't make you happy. Khloe continued. So I stopped. My eyes burned. She had found the truth, then buried it because I wanted peace. Her voice softened. There's one thing I always wanted to ask you. My chest tightened. Ethan, could you ever like me? Even a little. I closed my eyes. If there's another life, and I find you again. She laughed quietly. Give me your answer sooner next time. Okay. Then came her final words. I really, really, really love you, Ethan. The recording ended. I sat there until morning. 3 months later, my health collapsed. Years in prison had already damaged my body. Without Khloe, I stopped caring whether I recovered. One night, lying alone in bed, I finally answered her. Yes, Khloe. My voice was barely a whisper. I loved you too. I closed my eyes. I thought that was the end. Then I heard someone crying. Ethan, please. My eyes snapped open. I wasn't in my bedroom. I wasn't dying. I was young again. My mother was gripping my hand. Caleb was kneeling in front of me. My father stood behind them. Every face was exactly as I remembered it. My mother sobbed, Ethan, please save your brother. My blood turned cold. Then she said the sentence that had destroyed my first life. Will you take the fall for Caleb? In my first life, I had said yes. I gave Caleb 5 years. My health, my reputation, my future, and almost every chance I had to love Khloe. This time, I slowly pulled my hand away. Caleb looked up. Ethan. I stared directly into his eyes and smiled. No, the room went silent. I had already died once for this family. I wasn't going to do it again. No. My mother stared at me like she hadn't heard correctly. Caleb stopped crying. Even my father's expression changed. I had always been the easy son, the grateful one, the one who never complained. So apparently, the word no sounded foreign coming from me. My mother grabbed my wrist again. Ethan, you don't understand. Leo could die. If Caleb gets charged, his career is finished. I pulled my hand away. And if I get charged? She froze. I looked around the room. Nobody answered. That told me everything. Caleb wiped his face and crawled closer. Ethan, please. I swear I didn't mean to hurt him. I looked down at him. In my first life, that face had convinced me. I had believed his tears. I had believed his promises. 5 years later, when the prison gates opened, Caleb hadn't even bothered to send me a text. I'm sorry, I said. Hope flashed in his eyes. Then I finished. But you're going to have to face what you did. My father slammed his palm against the table. That's enough. His voice shook the room. We raised you for more than 20 years. There it was. The bill. Every meal. Every birthday. Every Christmas gift. All suddenly turned into debt. You enjoyed everything this family gave you. He said, now your brother needs you once. And you refuse. I met his eyes. I'm grateful for what you gave me. Then prove it. I don't repay 20 years of kindness by throwing away the rest of my life. My mother's face hardened. You've changed. If only she knew. I hadn't changed. I remembered prison. The first month had nearly broken me. I remembered being shoved out of my bunk because someone decided I looked too soft. I remembered food being knocked from my hands. I remembered waking up to threats whispered through the dark. And I remembered telling myself the same thing every night. Mom promised. Dad promised. Caleb promised. First, they visited. Mom cried when she saw the bruises. When you get out, I'll take care of you forever. A year later, she visited less. 2 years later, she looked annoyed when I complained about getting sick. This is prison, Ethan, not a vacation. Then Caleb started traveling for work. She told me she might not have time to visit because she was worried about him overseas. That was when I finally understood. Caleb's inconvenience mattered more than my suffering. 5 years later, I walked out carrying everything I owned in one plastic bag. Nobody was waiting. No mom, no dad, no Caleb, only my father's assistant. He opened the trunk of a black SUV and pulled out a duffel bag. Mr. Anderson asked me to give you this. I unzipped it. Cash. A lot of it. I almost laughed. 20 years as their son. 5 years in prison. Reduced to a payout. Take it back. The assistant frowned. Mr. Anderson said, I heard you. I walked away. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I simply didn't want another reason for them to say I owed them. I rented a tiny apartment and started applying for jobs. Most places rejected me the moment they saw my record. One company finally gave me a chance. 2 weeks later, my manager called me in. You're fired. What? He wouldn't look at me. My work has been fine. I know. Then why? He lowered his voice. You made someone angry. Who? He hesitated. Someone I can't afford to make angry. I knew immediately. The Andersons. They hadn't just abandoned me. They wanted me gone. So I left Los Angeles. I found a cheap room in a smaller town and got hired at a roadside diner. That should have been humiliating. Instead, felt peaceful. Nobody there knew Ethan Anderson. Nobody knew Caleb. Nobody cared about the scandal. For the first time in years, I could breathe. Then one night, a drunk customer started screaming at the owner. When he grabbed her arm, I stepped in. Let her go. He laughed. Mind your business. This is my business. He swung first. I hit the floor. Plate shattered beside me. Beer soaked through my shirt. The guy raised his fist again, then stopped. The diner had gone silent. I looked toward the entrance. A woman stood there in a cream trench coat, staring directly at me. Khloe Monroe. At that time, the entire country knew her name. Heiress to the Monroe fortune. Caleb Anderson's glamorous girlfriend. And the last person I expected to see in a roadside diner. She looked me over. You look terrible. I pushed myself up. Nice to see you too. She smiled. I tried to walk past her. Ethan. I stopped. What? She studied me for a second. Then, with absolutely no warning, she asked, marry me. I stared at her. What? Marry me? Are you insane? Possibly. She stepped closer. Caleb dumped me. Your family destroyed your life. Her expression remained calm. So I'd say we both have reasons to be unhappy with the Anderson family. You want to marry me for revenge. That's what everyone will think. I should have walked away. Instead, I stood there, soaked in beer, unemployed in every way that mattered, with nowhere left to go. Khloe took off her expensive coat and placed it over my shoulders. You have nothing left to lose. Ethan. I looked at her. In my first life, I thought she was offering me revenge. I didn't know she was offering me a home. Fine, I said. Her eyes widened slightly. Fine, I'll marry you. For the first time, Khloe Monroe looked genuinely happy. And that should have been my first clue. But back then, I was too broken to notice. Now, sitting in my childhood home for the second time, I looked at Caleb kneeling in front of me. I remembered everything that came after. The prison, the abandonment, the diner, Khloe, her wedding ring, her funeral, her voice on that recorder. And I knew one thing for certain. I would never walk that road again. A knock suddenly sounded downstairs. Then another. Harder. My father looked toward the door. My mother's face went pale. A few seconds later, the housekeeper rushed into the room. Mr. Anderson. She swallowed. The police are here. Caleb stopped breathing. And this time, I wasn't going to save him. The police arrived 10 minutes later. Caleb went pale. My mother immediately stepped in front of him. Officers, there has to be some misunderstanding. One detective looked past her. Caleb Anderson. Yes, we need to ask you about what happened to Leo Vance. My father stepped forward. Our attorney is coming. That's fine. But we still need statements from everyone who was there. Then the detective looked at me. Ethan Anderson. I nodded. My mother's face tightened. In my first life, one desperate look from her had been enough to make me lie. Not anymore. Were you backstage when Mr. Vance fell? Yes. Did you see an argument? Yes. Caleb's eyes snapped toward me. Between who? Caleb and Leo. Ethan. My mother whispered. I ignored her. Caleb jumped up. That's not what happened. The detective raised a hand. Sit down. My father glared at me. Think carefully before you say something you can't take back. I am. Did you see Caleb push Leo? The detective asked. I paused. I saw them fighting. I heard shouting. Then Leo fell. I won't claim I saw something I didn't. That answer terrified Caleb more than an accusation would have. Because I wasn't framing him. I was simply refusing to save him. The police eventually took Caleb in for questioning. My mother followed them outside, crying. The second the door closed, my father turned on me. You just handed your brother to the police. No, Caleb did that himself. His expression hardened. You really think this family will forgive you? I'm not asking you to. I went upstairs and packed. Ava appeared in the doorway. You're leaving. Yes, Dad won't forgive this. I know. She watched me quietly. What happened to you? Ethan. I zipped my suitcase. Maybe I finally realized sacrificing yourself for people doesn't make them love you more. Her expression softened. She hugged me. In my first life, Ava had been the only one who tried to stop me from going to prison. I hadn't listened. This time, I would. Go, she said. Live for yourself. So I did. I walked out of the Anderson house with one suitcase. No goodbye. No regret. I had barely made it down the street when someone called my name. Ethan. My entire body froze. I turned. Khloe Monroe stood behind me. Young. Alive. Beautiful. For a second, I forgot how to breathe. She frowned. Why are you looking at me like that? I tried to speak. Then she stepped closer. Wait, are you crying? I touched my face. Damn it. I had imagined seeing her again so many times. I just hadn't expected it to hurt this much. What happened? She asked. Long story. Her eyes dropped to my suitcase. Did you get kicked out? More or less. What did you do? Refused to go to prison for Caleb. Her face instantly changed. What? I told her about Leo, the fight, and my parents asking me to take the blame. By the end, Khloe looked furious. They asked you to sacrifice your future for him. Pretty much. And you're acting like it's nothing. I'm fine. No, you're not. I stared at her. Same Khloe. Even now. She always saw through me. So where are you going? She asked. I haven't decided. Great. You're coming with me. To where? My apartment. I almost laughed. In exchange for what? She raised an eyebrow. Do I look like I run a shelter? There she is. There who is? I shook my head. Nobody. She grabbed my suitcase. Come on. Her apartment was almost exactly as I remembered. Clean. Minimalist. Expensive. And, apparently, completely unused in the kitchen. You hungry? She asked. A little. I can cook. 20 minutes later, smoke filled the kitchen. I leaned against the doorway. You said you could cook. I can. The smoke alarm disagrees. She shoved a bowl of noodles toward me. Try it. I took one bite. Salt. Mostly salt. Well, it's good. You're lying. Just slightly salty. She tasted it herself, then immediately dumped the whole bowl into the trash. That's horrible. I laughed. A real laugh. Khloe stared at me. What? Nothing. I looked at her and thought about my first life. Back then, she made every meal perfectly. Healthy soups, rice bowls, food designed around my ruined stomach. I had never realized she learned all of it for me. You'll get better, I said. Cooking. Yeah. She narrowed her eyes. You sound very sure. I am. She smiled. Good. For the first time since waking up again, I felt hope. Maybe this life didn't have to be only about revenge. For the next 2 weeks, I stayed with Khloe. Then one morning, she walked into the living room holding her phone. Her expression was cold. Ethan, you need to see this. My parents were on screen at a press conference. My mother was crying. My father looked devastated. Caleb sat between them. My father spoke first. Ethan is not our biological son. Caleb is. My stomach tightened. We raised Ethan as family. He continued. But what he is doing now is destroying us. Then Caleb looked into the cameras. If Ethan made a mistake, I forgive him. I almost laughed. If someone has to take responsibility for Leo, I'm willing to do it for my brother. The comments exploded. Ungrateful. Criminal. Parasite. Confess already. Khloe lowered the phone. They're setting you up. I know. Let me help you. My first instinct was to refuse. Then I remembered my first life. Khloe had tried to stand beside me, and I had pushed her away until it was too late. Not again. I looked at her. Okay. She blinked. Okay. I nodded. Help me. For the first time in either life, I chose Khloe before I chose the Anderson family. Help me. The words had barely left my mouth before Khloe's expression changed. Not surprised. Focused. Almost dangerous. Good, she said. Then we stop reacting and start moving. That was Khloe Monroe. Once she decided something mattered, she treated it like a war. Within an hour, her dining table was covered with laptops, printed maps, phone records, and a list of every business surrounding the film studio where Leo Vance had fallen. I stared at the mess. You prepared all this already. She didn't look up. I started the moment your family went public. Of course she did. In my first life, Khloe had spent years quietly investigating what happened to me. This time, I was finally beside her while she did it. She tapped the map. The stairwell camera was either disabled or erased. Fine. That doesn't mean every camera nearby disappeared. What are you thinking? Traffic cameras, parking garages, convenience stores, restaurants, other production crews. She looked at me. People erase the evidence they know exists. A small smile touched her lips. They usually forget the evidence they don't know about. I leaned back. That's terrifying. You married me in another universe and you're only figuring that out now. I froze. Khloe froze too. For 1 second, neither of us spoke. Then she cleared her throat. Figure of speech. I stared at her. Interesting. Before I could ask. Her phone rang. She answered immediately. Monroe. Her expression sharpened. Send me everything from 3 p.m. to 7. She hung up. One of the businesses across from the studio still has archived security footage. That fast. She gave me a look. My last name opens doors. I noticed. Try not to sound jealous. I'm deeply jealous. She smiled. For the next 3 days, we barely slept. Most of the footage was useless. Cars, crew members, delivery trucks, blurry faces. At 2 in the morning on the 4th day, I was staring at another screen when Khloe suddenly grabbed my arm. Wait, she rewound the clip. A figure appeared near the rear entrance of the studio. Blurry, too far away to see his face. But I recognized the jacket instantly. Black leather, white stripe across the shoulder. Caleb had worn it constantly during that movie shoot. Khloe zoomed in. There. Another man appeared. Leo. Even without audio, the argument was obvious. Leo pointed at Caleb. Caleb shoved him. Leo stepped back. Then both disappeared toward the stairwell entrance. My jaw tightened. This isn't enough. No, Khloe said. But it proves Caleb lied when he said he barely spoke to Leo that day. She opened another file. Now look at this. Different camera. Different angle. Leo appeared near the bottom of the stairs seconds later. He hit the ground hard. A moment after that, Caleb emerged above him. I stopped breathing. The footage was grainy, but the jacket, the hair, the build, it was him. Khloe whispered, "We got him." I should have felt victorious. Instead, I felt cold, because in my first life, none of this had mattered. I had confessed before anyone bothered looking this hard. I had handed Caleb my entire future. Khloe must have seen something in my face. Ethan, I'm fine. She gave me a flat look. Stop saying that. I almost laughed. Sorry. No, you're not. That's true. She closed the laptop. We make copies. Multiple. 5. Paranoid. Alive. Fair point. She sent encrypted backups to Mr. Davis, another attorney, and 2 separate cloud accounts. Then she handed me a flash drive. This one stays with you. I took it. You trust me with the original. I trust you with more than that. Her voice was quiet. Too quiet. I looked at her. For a second, the confident Khloe disappeared. I saw the woman from my first life. The one who had loved me without ever asking for anything back. I wanted to tell her everything. That I remembered our marriage. That I remembered the lilies. That I remembered the recorder. That I had heard her say she loved me 3 times because once hadn't been enough. But I didn't. Not yet. Before I could speak, Khloe's phone buzzed. Her face changed the moment she read the screen. What? She turned it toward me. A new article had gone live. Anderson family claims new witness saw Ethan attack Leo Vance. I read the name. Marcus Reed, Leo's former agent. Khloe swore under her breath. He wasn't even near the stairwell. I know. The article claimed Marcus had seen me arguing with Leo earlier that day. Then came the sentence that made everything obvious. According to him, I had been unstable, aggressive, and jealous of Caleb's success. I laughed. Khloe looked at me. What's funny? They're getting desperate. Within hours, the story spread everywhere. My face appeared on entertainment sites, talk shows, social media clips. People who had never met me debated whether I belonged in prison. Anderson PR pushed the same message again and again. Poor Caleb, troubled adopted brother, ungrateful outsider. At breakfast, Khloe slammed her phone onto the counter. I can destroy this witness in 24 hours. I looked up from my coffee. How? He has gambling debt. I nearly choked. How do you know that? She shrugged. I know people. Remind me never to make you angry. Too late. She sat across from me. Marcus received a large payment through a consulting company 2 days before he gave that interview. Connected to my father. Not directly. Of course not. But the company belongs to a longtime Anderson business associate. I nodded slowly. So we have motive, payment, and false testimony. Exactly. Do we release it? Not yet. I looked at her. Khloe smiled, because she understood the game better than I did. Right now, your family thinks you're cornered. She leaned forward. Let them. The next morning, my father called. I stared at his name on the screen. Khloe glanced over. You answering? Yes. I put it on speaker. My father didn't bother with hello. You've embarrassed this family enough. I stayed silent. Come home. Admit what you did. We can still control the damage. I almost admired the confidence. You mean admit what Caleb did? His voice hardened. Be careful. No, Dad. You be careful. Silence. Then I continued. You've spent your whole life cleaning up Caleb's mistakes. My hand tightened around the phone. This one won't disappear. He laughed once. Cold. You think that Monroe girl can protect you? I looked at Khloe. She raised one eyebrow. I smiled. She already has. I ended the call. Khloe stared at me. What? You called me that Monroe girl? That was him. You still defended me. I'm learning. Slowly. She stood and walked toward the kitchen. Then her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. Hello. Nothing. Her face changed. Who is this? The call disconnected. A second later, a text appeared. She read it once, then handed me the phone. My blood went cold. Stop digging. Another message appeared. Next time, you won't get a warning. I looked at Khloe. She didn't look afraid. That scared me more, because I remembered something from my first life. Caleb had never been harmless, and now he knew we were getting close. I picked up the flash drive. From now on, you don't go anywhere alone. Khloe crossed her arms. Excuse me, I'm serious. So am I, Khloe. She stared at me for a long second. Then her expression softened. Fine. I blinked. That easy. No. She stepped closer. I'm agreeing because I like hearing you worry about me. I sighed. You're impossible. And yet you're still here. She smiled. And this time, I intended to stay. What neither of us knew was that Caleb had already made his next move. And it wasn't aimed at the evidence. It was aimed at Khloe. Khloe disappeared the next afternoon. First, I thought she was running late. Then I called. No answer. Again. Nothing. 10 minutes later, my phone rang from an unknown number. I answered immediately. Ethan. Caleb. Every muscle in my body tightened. Where is she? He laughed. So you noticed. Caleb. Relax. Khloe's alive. For now. He didn't need to say the last 2 words. I heard movement in the background. Then Khloe's voice. Ethan. Don't. The line went muffled. I stood so fast my chair hit the floor. If you hurt her, you're not in a position to threaten me. Caleb's voice was completely different from the crying younger brother I had seen in front of our parents. No tears. No fear. Only hatred. Bring the original evidence. You mean the footage. Everything. He gave me an address outside Los Angeles. An abandoned warehouse. Come alone. I looked at the flash drive in my hand. If I do, you let Khloe go. Bring it and find out. The call ended. For several seconds. I didn't move. In my first life, Khloe died before I understood how much she meant to me. I had already lost her once. I refused to do it again. I grabbed my keys. The warehouse looked deserted. I stepped inside. Khloe. A light snapped on. Caleb stood near the center of the building. 4 men surrounded him. Khloe was tied to a chair behind them. Her lip was cut, but she was conscious. Our eyes met. Relief hit me so hard my knees almost weakened. Then I looked at the men beside Caleb and froze. I knew them, not from this life, from prison. The largest one had a scar running across his eyebrow. In my first year behind bars, he had broken 2 of my ribs. Another had cornered me in the shower. A third used to steal my food. For 5 years, I had believed they targeted me because I was weak, Because I had once belonged to a wealthy family. Because prison was simply cruel. Now they were standing beside Caleb. My stomach turned cold. Caleb noticed my expression. He smiled. Recognize anybody. That smile answered everything. You sent them. He shrugged. I needed to make sure prison taught you your place. Something inside me snapped. You weren't satisfied with letting me take the fall. You were supposed to disappear. His face twisted. You had 20 years with my parents. My house. My sister. My name. None of that was my choice. Should have been mine. He stepped toward me. And then Khloe chose you too. There it was. This had never only been about Leo. Caleb hated me simply for existing. I reached into my pocket. The drive is here. His eyes dropped to it. Give it to me. Let Khloe go first. Caleb laughed. You still think you can negotiate? I tossed the flash drive onto the floor between us. His eyes followed it. Now release her. He nodded toward one of the men. The ropes around Khloe's wrists were cut. She ran toward me. The second she reached my side, Caleb bent for the drive. I moved. Kicked it away. What the hell? I hit him before he could stand. One of his men charged me. The warehouse exploded into chaos. I wasn't stronger than all of them. I didn't need to be. I only needed enough time to get Khloe out. Door. I shouted. She understood immediately. We moved together. A fist caught my jaw. I stumbled. Another man grabbed my jacket. I drove my elbow backward and broke free. Then I saw someone behind Khloe raising a steel pipe. Khloe. I pulled her toward me. The pipe slammed across my back. Pain ripped through my body. I dropped to one knee. Ethan, I'm fine. You are absolutely not fine. Even then. She sounded angry. I almost laughed. Caleb grabbed the flash drive while his men closed around us. He held it up like a trophy. Got it. He smiled. This ends everything. I looked at him. Despite the pain, I smiled back. That made him hesitate. But only for a second. Khloe and I reached the exit and made it outside. By the time I looked back, Caleb and his men were already running toward another vehicle. He had the USB, and he believed he had one. Khloe forced me into the passenger seat. You're going to the hospital. It's probably bruised. You got hit with a steel pipe. Still probably bruised. She turned toward me. Her eyes were red. Stop acting like getting hurt doesn't matter. I went quiet. She looked away. I watched you throw yourself in front of me without even thinking. I told you, I'm fine. That isn't the point. Her voice cracked. I don't want you getting hurt because of me. I stared at her. That sentence felt painfully familiar. In my first life, I had used almost the same excuse whenever I pushed her away. I reached for her hand. Khloe. She looked at me. I came because I wanted to. Her fingers tightened around mine. And I'd do it again. Don't. Okay. She blinked. That easy? No. I smiled slightly, but I promised I'd start listening to you. That finally made her laugh. Then she punched my shoulder. Unfortunately, the injured one. Ow. Her eyes widened. Oh my God. Sorry. I laughed harder. And for a moment, even after everything, I felt strangely happy. Because Khloe was alive. That was enough. Then she looked at me. The flash drive. Caleb has it. Her mouth curved. That idiot. I raised an eyebrow. You don't seem worried. Why would I be? She started the car. I made backups. I stared at her. How many? Several. Of course you did. Mr. Davis has one. 2 are encrypted online. Another is with a private investigator. I leaned back. Caleb believed he had destroyed his future by stealing one USB. In reality, he had just added kidnapping and assault to everything else. But something still bothered me. Those men. The prison. My parents might have abandoned me, but Caleb had actively made sure I suffered. In my first life, I had forgiven him because I believed his worst mistake was letting me take the blame. Now I knew better. He had wanted to break me. This time, I wouldn't give him the chance. My phone rang. Khloe glanced at the screen. Who is it? I answered. Hello. A man's voice came through. Mr. Anderson. Yes. This is St. Matthew's Medical Center. My heart stopped. The caller continued. I'm calling about Leo Vance. Khloe immediately looked at me. What happened? The doctor took a breath. Mr. Vance woke up 20 minutes ago. I slowly sat upright. and he's asking to speak with the police. Caleb thought he had destroyed the evidence, but the one witness he could never erase had just opened his eyes. Leo Vance is awake. For a second, I thought I had misheard the doctor. Khloe pulled the car to the side of the road. I tightened my grip on the phone. Is he conscious enough to talk? Yes. And he remembers what happened. A pause. He asked for the police. That was enough. Thank you. I ended the call. Khloe looked at me. Well, I let out a breath. He remembers. Her expression changed instantly. Caleb had spent weeks destroying footage, buying witnesses, manipulating the press, and trying to force me into taking the blame. None of it mattered anymore, because Leo Vance was alive, and he could speak. By the time we reached St. Matthew's Medical Center, 2 detectives were already outside Leo's room. One of them recognized me. Mr. Anderson. How is he? Weak, but alert. The detective studied me. He gave us a preliminary statement. My heart started pounding, and the detective didn't smile. Leo says Caleb Anderson pushed him. Khloe squeezed my hand. I looked down. Only then did I realize she was holding it. The detective continued. He remembers arguing with Caleb backstage. He says Caleb became aggressive, shoved him near the stairs, and he lost his balance. What about me? He remembers seeing you nearby. My stomach tightened. Then the detective added, he specifically said you weren't the one who pushed him. For 5 years in my first life, I had carried a crime that never belonged to me. 5 years. And now the truth had taken less than 5 minutes to say aloud. Khloe looked at me. Ethan, I'm okay. She gave me that look again. I corrected myself. I will be. That seemed to satisfy her. Barely. By evening, everything changed. The police reopened the case around Caleb. Then Mr. Davis arrived with copies of the surveillance footage Khloe had collected. He placed the files on the detective's desk. These are authenticated backups. The detective looked at Khloe. You made copies before the kidnapping. Obviously. I almost smiled. Mr. Davis added another folder. We also traced the payment made to Marcus Reed. That got their attention. The witness. Yes. The so-called witness who had gone on television claiming I attacked Leo had received money through a consulting company connected to one of my father's longtime business partners. The story was collapsing. Fast. Leo's statement. The surveillance footage. The paid witness. Khloe's kidnapping. The warehouse assault. And now the men Caleb hired were connected to other crimes. For the first time, Caleb wasn't facing a public relations problem. He was facing prison. Across Los Angeles, the headlines changed overnight. Leo Vance wakes. Names Caleb Anderson as attacker. Then, new video contradicts Anderson family claims. And finally, police investigating possible witness tampering. The same people who had called me a criminal 48 hours earlier suddenly wanted interviews. I ignored all of them. Khloe didn't. She stood in my kitchen scrolling through her phone. This reporter called you a parasite yesterday. Block him. This one said you belonged in prison. Block. This woman said I had terrible taste in men. I looked up. What are you doing about her? Khloe thought for a second. Permanent block. I laughed. She looked pleased with herself. Then my phone rang. Ava. I answered. Hey. Her voice sounded wrong. Ethan. The police are at the house. I stopped smiling. Is Caleb there? No. What do you mean? No. He left. When? 20 minutes ago. Khloe was already watching me. Ava lowered her voice. Dad told him to wait for the attorney. Mom was crying. Caleb just grabbed his keys and ran. My stomach dropped. He's running. The police reached Caleb's house first. Empty. His phone was off. His credit cards hadn't been used. But a traffic camera picked up his car heading east out of Los Angeles. He wasn't going to surrender. Of course he wasn't. Caleb had spent his entire life believing someone else would pay for his mistakes. Our parents, their lawyers, their money, me. This time, nobody could. About an hour later, Khloe and I were still at the hospital when one of the detectives received a call. His face changed. I knew before he said anything. What happened? He lowered the phone. There's been an accident. My chest tightened. Caleb. The detective nodded. He was traveling at high speed. Apparently he lost control while trying to pass another vehicle. Is he alive? The detective hesitated. No. The room went silent. I thought I would feel happy. After everything he had done to me, maybe I should have. Instead, I felt almost nothing, just tired. Caleb had stolen 5 years from my first life. He had arranged for men to torment me in prison. He had tried to frame me again. He had kidnapped Khloe. And in the end, he destroyed himself. Khloe stood beside me. You okay? I stared through the hospital window. I don't know. You don't have to be happy he's dead. I'm not. And you don't have to forgive him either. I looked at her. That was exactly what I needed to hear. So I nodded. I don't. The men from the warehouse were arrested within days. Once Caleb was dead, their loyalty disappeared quickly. One started talking, then another. The police uncovered everything. The kidnapping, the assault, the intimidation, and eventually, connections to what had happened during my first prison sentence. That part could never be prosecuted in this life. Technically, it hadn't happened yet, but I already knew the truth. Caleb had never been the scared younger brother I thought I was protecting. He had hated me long before I understood it. And somehow, knowing that finally set me free. My mother didn't take Caleb's death well. Ava called me 3 days later. She hasn't left his room. I stayed silent. Dad wants to see you. No, Ethan, I'm not angry at you. I know, but I'm not going back there. Ava sighed. He says he wants to apologize. I looked across the room. Khloe was arranging fresh lilies in a vase. For 1 second, I remembered another lifetime, another house, another Khloe. Then I looked back at the phone. Tell him I heard enough words from that family. Ava didn't argue. Okay. Before hanging up, she said quietly, I'm glad you left when you did. So am I. I ended the call. Khloe glanced over. Everything okay? Yeah. This time, I meant it. She placed the lilies on the table. You know, these are annoyingly difficult to arrange. I walked closer. You'll get better. She narrowed her eyes. You say that about everything. Because I know you will. Her expression softened. For years, I thought revenge would be the ending. Caleb exposed. My name cleared. The Anderson family forced to face what they had done. But standing there with Khloe alive in front of me, I realized something. Revenge wasn't why I came back. She was. And this time, I wasn't going to wait until her funeral to tell her. Caleb's death didn't save the Anderson family. Finished breaking it. For days, reporters camped outside the estate. Every major entertainment outlet ran the same story. Caleb Anderson wasn't the innocent rising star his family had protected. He had lied, paid witnesses, kidnapped Khloe, and tried to destroy evidence tying him to Leo's fall. The Anderson name that once opened every door in Los Angeles had become something people whispered about. My mother took it worst. Ava called me one night. She barely eats. I stayed quiet. She sits in Caleb's room all day. What about Dad? He's trying to keep everything together. I almost laughed. That had always been his specialty. Keep the company stable. Keep the family image clean. Keep Caleb protected. No matter who had to pay for it. Ethan. Ava said carefully. Dad wants to talk to you. I don't. He knows. Then why ask? Because I think he finally understands what he did. I looked toward the kitchen. Khloe was fighting with a bag of groceries. One orange rolled across the floor. She pointed at it. Don't laugh. I didn't. You were about to. I smiled despite myself. Ava heard it. You sound happy. That caught me off guard. I think I am. She was quiet for a moment. Good. Then she said something I never expected. Dad and Mom are leaving the country for a while. I frowned. Doctors think Mom needs to get away from everything here. Dad agreed. And the company. I'm taking over. I sat straighter. What's that supposed to mean? I laughed. There's the Ava I remember. I can handle it. I know. Her voice softened. I spent too long trying to keep everyone in this family from falling apart. So did I. Not anymore. There was strength in her voice now. Not guilt. Not fear. Strength. I'm going to rebuild the company, she said. And this time, the Anderson name won't survive because somebody else was sacrificed to protect it. I smiled. Then I think they picked the right person. Before hanging up, Ava hesitated. Dad asked me to tell you something. I said nothing. He said if there were any way to undo what he did to you, he would. My fingers tightened around the phone. In my first life, I had waited years to hear something like that. I had imagined my parents showing up at the prison gates. I imagined Mom hugging me, Dad apologizing, Caleb admitting everything. Back then, those words could have meant the world to me. Now, they were simply late. Tell him I don't hate him. Ava exhaled. But I'm done being his son when it's convenient and his debt when it isn't. I understand. I hope they find peace. You too. Ethan. I looked at Khloe again. I think I already did. Life became strangely quiet after that. No police calls. No reporters outside. No threats. No Anderson family crisis waiting for me to fix it. At first, I didn't know what to do with peace. Khloe did. She filled it. She complained when I worked too long. She forced me to eat breakfast. She kept practicing in the kitchen despite several culinary disasters. And for reasons she refused to explain, she kept bringing home lilies. One Saturday afternoon, I found her standing at the dining table trimming a fresh bouquet. I stopped in the doorway. For a second, I wasn't in this life anymore. I remembered another table, another bouquet, Khloe smiling as she arranged lilies only days before the accident that killed her. I remembered her recorder. Could you ever like me? Even a little. My chest tightened. Not this time. I walked toward her. She didn't turn around. You've been staring at me for 30 seconds. You counted. I always know when you're staring. That sounds arrogant. It's only arrogance if I'm wrong. I smiled. Same Khloe. I stepped behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. Her hands stopped. Ethan. I rested my chin on her shoulder. For once, I didn't overthink it. Can I tell you something? That depends. On what? Whether you're about to criticize my flower arrangement. I wouldn't dare. Smart man. I laughed softly. Then my voice lowered. Khloe. She went still. I love you. No hesitation. No funeral. No recorder. No second chance wasted. Just the truth. I love you more than I ever knew how to say. For several seconds. She didn't move. Then she slowly turned in my arms. Her eyes looked different, too emotional for a simple confession. Almost like she had been waiting years to hear those words. Maybe she had. You took long enough. She whispered. I froze. What? Her expression changed immediately. Then she smiled. I said you took long enough in this life. Something about the wording bothered me. In this life. Khloe blinked. Then she reached up and touched my cheek. You think too much. That wasn't an answer. No. She leaned closer. It wasn't. Before I could question her again. She kissed me. And suddenly I didn't care about the answer. When she pulled away, I rested my forehead against hers. You still haven't said it back. She smiled. I love you too. Ethan. My chest tightened. This time, those words didn't come through an old recording. She was standing right in front of me. Alive. I held her tighter. For the first time across 2 lives, there was nothing left between us. No Anderson family, no Caleb, no prison sentence, no regret. I thought I finally understood why fate had sent me back. I believed I had been given a second life so I could save myself. I was wrong, because there was still one secret Khloe hadn't told me. One secret that explained how she always seemed to be one step ahead. Why she had found me the moment I left the Anderson house. Why she had known where to search for evidence. And why, when I finally told her I loved her, she looked like she had been waiting far longer than I realized. I thought I was the only person who had come back. I wasn't. I thought I was the only one who had come back. I was wrong. Khloe was still in my arms when I finally asked the question I had been avoiding. What did you mean? She looked up at me. About what? In this life. Her mouth twitched. You really don't let things go. No. I loosened my arms, but didn't step away. Khloe, you knew where I was the day I left the Anderson house. She said nothing. You knew more about Caleb than you should have. Still nothing. You found evidence too quickly. You made backups before we even knew he'd try to steal them. Her expression slowly changed. The teasing disappeared. For once, Khloe Monroe had nowhere to hide. I stared at her. You knew. She exhaled. So did you? My heart stopped. What? Khloe smiled sadly. You were terrible at pretending. She touched my cheek. The first time you saw me, you cried. I swallowed. You looked at my apartment like you'd lived there before. You knew I'd eventually learn to cook. You knew things about me I had never told you." Her voice softened. "And sometimes, you looked at me like you had already lost me once. There was no point lying anymore. Khloe, I remember too. For words, that was all it took." The room disappeared around me. I stared at her. "You." She nodded. I came back too. Khloe had died in that car accident. But death hadn't been the end for her either. When she opened her eyes again, she was young, back in college, back before Caleb ruined my life, back before I went to prison. And unlike me, Khloe immediately knew what she wanted. She wanted to stop it. "I went to see you first," she told me. "You did." She smiled. "You were giving a student council speech. That memory didn't belong to me, but it belonged to her. I sat in the audience watching you and thought, this is the Ethan I wanted to protect." Her eyes turned wet. "You were confident, brilliant, annoyingly popular. Annoyingly, very." I laughed softly. Then she stopped smiling. "You hadn't been broken yet." I knew exactly what she meant. Prison hadn't just damaged my body. It changed the way I slept, the way I trusted people, the way I reacted whenever someone raised their voice behind me. Khloe had seen all of it during our marriage. "I used to wake up at night," she continued, "and find you sitting on the edge of the bed. I looked away. You always said you were fine. I wasn't." I know. She had always known. That was the problem. She had known me better than I knew myself. "So I made a promise," Khloe said. "If I got another chance, you would never go through that again." She started preparing long before Leo's fall. Caleb was predictable. His ego, his temper, his obsession with his career. Khloe knew sooner or later he would create another disaster. So she used Monroe family connections to quietly watch the places connected to the coming incident. She even arranged additional surveillance around the studio floor. It didn't capture every angle of the stairwell, but it gave her enough to know where to look when the time came. Then the day arrived. Leo fell. My parents begged me to take the blame, and Khloe waited. I was terrified, she admitted. "'Cause I didn't know whether you remembered." She looked directly at me. "If you said yes again, I was going to expose everything myself." I smiled. "That sounds like you. But then you said no." Her smile returned. And I knew. How? Because the Ethan from my first life would have sacrificed himself. That hurt because she was right. "You walked out of that house carrying one suitcase," she said. "And there was something different about you." "What?" "You finally looked like a man walking toward his own life instead of waiting for someone else to give him permission." I remembered the street, the trees, my suitcase, and Khloe suddenly appearing in front of me. "You were waiting for me." "Of course." "You acted surprised." "I'm an excellent actress." "You asked why I was crying." "I already knew." I stared at her. "You're evil." "Thank you." I laughed. Then another memory hit me. The noodles. Khloe immediately looked defensive. "What about them?" "You knew they were terrible. Obviously. You deliberately made terrible noodles. I wanted you to see I wasn't perfect." I couldn't believe this woman. "You nearly killed me with salt." "It wasn't that bad." "It absolutely was." She crossed her arms. "You still ate them." "Because I loved you." Silence. Her expression softened instantly. I realized what I had said. This time, I didn't take it back. "I loved you then too." Khloe looked down. "In our first life." "Yes." "For how long?" I thought about it. The diner, our wedding, her ridiculous jokes, the doctor appointments, the meals, the flowers. Maybe there had never been one exact moment. I don't know. That's a terrible answer. I know. I took her hand. "But I know I loved you long before I was brave enough to admit it." Her eyes filled with tears. I continued. "I just thought you'd always be there." That was the ugliest truth. So I kept waiting, waiting to say it, waiting to trust her, waiting to stop feeling like I didn't deserve her. Then the car accident happened. And suddenly there was no more time. "I heard your recording after you died." Khloe froze. "What? You left it with Davis." Her eyes widened. "Oh, so she didn't know that part." "You heard everything." "Everything." Her face slowly turned red. I almost laughed. "Don't." "You said really 3 times. Ethan, you also asked if I could like you even a little." She covered her face. I was dead. I didn't think I'd have to face you afterward. Now I did laugh. Khloe hit my chest. That isn't funny. It's a little funny. She glared at me. Then I caught her wrist and pulled her closer. There was one part you deserve an answer to. She stopped struggling. I looked into her eyes. You asked me to give you my answer earlier if we ever met again. Her eyes immediately turned red. So here it is. I held her tighter. Yes, Khloe. Her lips parted. I like you. I smiled. A lot more than a little. A tear rolled down her cheek. And I love you. This time. There was no recorder between us. No hospital. No funeral. No regret. Just Khloe. Alive. Right in front of me. She wrapped both arms around me. You're really slow. You know that. I died and came back. That should count as effort. She laughed against my chest. I suppose. A few months later, life finally became ordinary, and I learned that ordinary was underrated. Ava took control of Anderson Group and began rebuilding its reputation without covering up anyone's mistakes. My parents remained overseas. Dad occasionally sent messages. I answered some, ignored others. I didn't hate them. I simply stopped needing them. And Khloe kept invading every part of my life. She learned to cook properly. Eventually, she filled the apartment with lilies. She stole my shirts. She criticized my coffee. And whenever I worked too late, she appeared beside my desk with the same threat. If you die before me, I'll kill you. That makes no sense. It doesn't need to. One evening, I found her trimming another bouquet of lilies. I walked up behind her and wrapped my arms around her waist. She leaned back against me. Again. What? You're staring. I like looking at you. She smiled. Better answer. I rested my chin on her shoulder. 2 lives. That was how long it had taken us. In the first one, I sacrificed everything for people who eventually abandoned me. And I almost lost the one person who had never stopped choosing me. The second time around, I finally understood. Family wasn't blood. It wasn't debt. It wasn't sacrifice demanded in the name of love. Family was the person who stood beside you when everyone else walked away. I kissed Khloe's temple. She turned slightly. What? Nothing. That look is never nothing. I smiled. I was just thinking how lucky I am. She raised an eyebrow. To have me, obviously. Good answer. I tightened my arms around her. People say that if 2 people truly belong together, no matter how far apart life throws them, eventually they'll find their way back. I used to think that was something people said because it sounded romantic. Now I knew better. Khloe and I had crossed regret, death, and 2 different lives. And somehow, we still found each other again. Last time, I wasted years trying to earn love from people who had already chosen someone else. This time, I chose the woman who had chosen me twice, and I never let her wait again.